What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host the only online conversation for dads and fathers in the world that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And one other hat I wear out of the many is I am the chairman of the board of the Global Food and Drink Initiative. It is a multimedia nonprofit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are involved in food, travel, and I forgot the last thing. But you know what? I can't remember right now because it's been so crazy today. But I will remember before the end of the day. So what we are going to do is food, restaurant, and travel. That's what I forgot. There we go. Black Canada Talking is live today. We're broadcasting March 21st. And if you haven't been around for Black Canada Talking, this is one of the best days to jump in for the first time. Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians an opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that have importance of them. Or we have people come on and share their story. Well, if you didn't know, this is International Women's Month. So I have been able to be blessed to have 5 super women on for a conversation, all based around International Women's Month. So we're going to introduce each one of them individually, because if they took their bios, I could spend 5 hours on each one of the bios because they've been doing so much positive stuff. So first up, we have Ms. John Pierre. John Pierre, how are you?
Well, very well.
Good. And can you share a little bit about yourself to our worldwide audience?
Well, my role is I'm an event planner in the city of Toronto, and I work in the Caribbean and in North America. It's my passion. I will not do anything else. I will never retire. I say to people when they say, when are you going to stop working? Never. Once I could perform and do my work, I will continue working. I've had many interesting contracts with different individuals. The one that I cherish a lot is working with Pan Am Games in 2015, where I produced 2 wonderful cutting style shows for them. That was really a nice highlight for my life in my world of event planning. And also, I am in the fashion industry a lot, and I've produced 4 cutting style shows in Toronto with Caribbean designers coming up for those. And that is really, really something I cherish and hope to do again. Once I could get the solid sponsorship behind me, I will produce some more of those. But my work is varied. I work in politics when there is election time. I do work with Adam Vaughan. And it is all about events.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to share with us. And I just want to correct, Global Food and Wine does work and showcase Blacks in the diaspora in food, wine, and travel. I just wanted to get that right. So, Joan, thank you so much. Next up, we have from the East Coast, Sylvia Paris Drummond. Please join us, Sylvia.
Hello to my sisters across the continents. Hello. Thank you, Dr. Vibe, for this opportunity to be with these powerful women. So I'm Sylvia Paris Drummond. I always need to acknowledge that I'm speaking from Nova Scotia, from the land of Nikwaki, the unceded land. And I always need to acknowledge my ancestors and how I am so fortunate to be standing on their shoulders and supported. So the work that I do, I'm going to just talk about it from quickly from 2 perspectives. So I'm fortunate to be the CEO with the Delmore Buddy Day Learning Institute. And I have also a smart hustle, someone has said to me, SV Paris Consulting. So I do consulting work. They kind of intertwine in that they both have a community focus, but diverge in that the work at the Delmore Buddy Day is focused on Afrocentric research, Afrocentric youth engagement, Afrocentric community engagement, and very deliberate development of resources, publications, just merging into podcasts to help ensure that we know the history, heritage, and culture of African Nova Scotians who have been here generationally and who can count themselves among waves of immigration. In my private work, I do facilitation, strategic planning work, and it's all about empowering women particularly, but also the broader African Nova Scotian community and the broader community in general. And so we're excited that we've got some publications at the DBDLI that are focused on telling the stories of our 54 historical African Nova Scotian communities. We have resources in the public school system. They're also in Ontario as well because they meet that curriculum. So there's lots of great stuff happening in there, and really we're grounded about empowerment for change. So I love that we're on this topic about speaking truth to challenge. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Next up from Ottawa, Sarah Oyongo. Sarah.
Oui, bonjour. Je vais commencer en français parce que je vous viens de Gatineau au Québec. Et ici, la langue d'usage, c'est le français. Et j'aimerais reconnaître d'abord que je vous parle depuis la terre ancestrale du peuple algonquin, les terres non cédées des Anishinaabe. So I started in French because I come from Quebec, and I'd like to also acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from unceded, unsurrendered territory, but these are the lands of the Algonquin people, the Anishinaabe Algonquin people, and I'm grateful for their stewardship of this land. And I also recognize that I am a settler, like everybody who came out.
Okay, we may be having a little bit of an audio video challenge. So we're going to go next up to Nicole Waldron. We'll work on Sarah. So Nicole Waldron.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Vibe, for having me. And I'm so happy to be here with this esteemed group of women. Oh, my goodness. I was in the event planning business for over 28 years. And, with COVID, I have had to pivot a little bit, and I'm launching the speaking and the podcasting era of my life, and launching a new show called Victory Speaks, where we have inspired conversations with individuals like yourself and all these amazing women on the show. I'm also an advocate for, I would say, co-op housing, and I've been an advocate for that for 27 years. I'm an advocate in mental health, for mental health and for families who have loved ones with a mental illness. And I tend to advocate for a few more other things, but those are the key ones that are top of my list, top of my game. And so that's it in a nutshell. There's so much that that I can get into, but I want to get into the show. So I'm going to go back and throw back over to you, Sarah. I know you were singing, you got frozen. So we heard you up. We heard you up to Gatineau, and you were speaking of being on the land of the Algonquin people.
Yes. Yeah. So, I'm speaking to you from unsurrendered and unceded territory of the Algonquin. And so I'm a translator. That's what I do for a living. And I work in media, both in my professional life and in my community life. So I work for television as a translator. But outside of that, my other career is community media. I've been a radio host with CHUO 89.1 FM in Ottawa for over 20 years. I've co-hosted 3 different shows, 2 African ones, one in French, another in English, and the very popular Black weekly talk show, Black on Black, with a team of amazing women who have now become, part of my tribe. I've also been involved in print community media with the Spectrum until it closed. And I also support a lot of the advocacy that happens on both sides of the river, en français and in English, with regard to the rights of our Black communities that make up our larger Black community. And I am a member of the board of Black History Ottawa. Black History Ottawa is the organization that began the citywide observance of Black History Month here in our nation's capital. So that's just a bit of what I do.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Shirley Joseph, please join us.
Bonjour, hi everyone, sac passé. Well, my name is Shirley. What I do is, and thank you so much, Sarah, for the land acknowledgement. Always remembering that here in Canada, we are on Native land. I'm a podcaster. I host, produce, and also provide consultancy to entrepreneurs or businesses that are thinking about using podcasting for their brand or to expand their voices. I'm also a community builder for a group that started back in 2017 called Black Canadian Content Creators. I did it out of necessity in order to see each other and find each other and connect with one another. I'm also the co-founder of the Chilnilla Network, which is all under the same umbrella when it comes to BCAN-CC and everything that I do. And just a newly launched business that we have called POC Images, which is People of Canada Images. And the goal is to bring subjects to the forefront, particularly subjects who are Black and Indigenous, and also to spotlight amazing Black and Indigenous photographers, but in a much more Canadian settings.
Thank you so much, ladies. We do not have any time to waste, so let's get right at it. So, first conversation topic. The theme for it's International Women's Month, March 2021. The theme for International Women's Month is Truth to Challenge. What do you choose to challenge and why? Who wants to go first?
We're on a different time zone, so we'll start out here. There's so much to kind of raise our voices up, particularly collectively, against the thing that I would put out there is this often approach that's asked from institutions and systemic structures to be given the answer of addressing the issues, has compared to the work that should happen inside first around thinking about what the structure wants to do policy-wise, change-wise, and then asking us, the community, the folks involved in various levels in this work, to say, does this work, right? What's the gap and what's missing, right? So I think we need to challenge this idea that while it's so necessary that we be at these tables and that we be involved in this conversation, the deep work around finding and addressing the issues starts within the institutions and within the structures.
Okay. Who wants to follow up? There's a great open from the East. Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is not, lofty, and I really like what Sylvia just said. I choose to challenge labels, but specifically preconceived notions of my worth as a woman who's Black, who's divorced, who's single, and childless. Okay? The way society considers that, you have not performed to your full capacity because you don't have a child and there's not a husband next to you and you don't have a family, etc. Mm-hmm. That needs to go so that women can just be who they are, how they want to be, how they want to show up in the world. And the judgment needs to stop. I choose to challenge the judgment, and I would prefer that people support and empower. Stop judging, support and empower.
Great answer. Great answer. Who wants to follow up?
I'll follow up.
Go ahead.
I choose to challenge in my very existence and forcing people to know that I exist and also we exist. That's the reason why I create the spaces that I do. And it's in order to no longer having to wait for anyone, but just really be like, look, you need to know we're here, and you need to deal with that. And if you have challenges with that, how can we, like, what do you need to know? What are some barriers? What are some things? What are some biases that you need to understand? So that way we're not just sitting there waiting for things or for opportunities. We're building it. And then you need to be aware that we're here at the same time.
Nicole and Joan, have not heard from you yet. Joan, go ahead. Come on, Joan. Okay. We're not hearing.
You're not hearing me?
Now
Yes.
we are.
Now we are.
Okay, go ahead.
How do we educate men so that he doesn't see his woman's success as a threat to his masculinity? We spend a lot of time ensuring that women break through glass ceilings and be successful in their career, but not looking at the impact it can have at home in particular, with some women earning more than men. There lies the conflict in the home. Are we doing enough work with men being comfortable with that scenario? It's really a problem in many relationships. And I do think as a society, we are trying our best to address how men get over that scenario.
Okay, you know, we could spend the next hour just on that.
Just gave you your next show. She just
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
you your next
yeah.
show.
As we say on the Dr. Vibe show, Joan dropping knowledge bombs already.
Yes.
Nicole, how can you follow that? Or do you want to follow that?
I'm coming with it. I'm coming with it.
All
I
right.
choose to challenge women in particular and our society after to deal with their mental health and wellness. I choose to challenge how they judge, and I love Sarah's take on judgment, because we are not willing to talk about our mental health and wellness. So I choose to challenge you to think about your mental health the same way you think about your physical health, and recognize you need to pay as much attention to it. So with every topic that was given today, it affects our mental health and wellness and our stability in life. I dropped the mic right there.
So true.
Does anyone want to add to what has already been said in regards to this? Or do you want to just move on to our next conversation piece? Anyone add? I think the next one's going to even get deeper. Yes. All right. So they're all nodding their heads. All right. So I think I'm going to say the topic and come back in an hour. So what we're going to do here, we're going to talk about women and leadership in corporate Canada. And I think this sort of carries on to what Joan already laid as a foundational piece about women in the workplace earning money. So who wants to take that one first?
I'll go.
Go ahead. You're on fire.
I had to have a discussion with my husband on this one because I struggled with it for the reason that we could look at simple things, the boardroom, climbing the ladder, and all those things. And I had to have a discussion with him, and this is what he came up with. Are we looking at this in the right way? That was his question back to me. I had to go to him to discuss this because there are a few simple things that we all know about in corporate Canada that is a problem, like the situations in boardrooms, etc. This is what he says. He reminded me about Jane Goodall's work with chimpanzees and suggested that this way of thinking is almost at a level of instinct. Where in Goodall's work, she talks about the pecking order of these animals. They have a hierarchy of male and
Okay, we're having some challenges with Joan's internet. So who wants to carry on this? Continue on this one. Go ahead.
So I'm really hoping for the day when we don't even have to talk about, oh, women in leadership. Because listen, women been leading, okay? In our Black community, women have been leading. In my work here in Ottawa-Gatineau, in terms of the associations, how they were started, how they've been maintained, and how they survive. Women, female leadership. Why? Because we're about for the family, for the community, etc. We tend to be more collective thinking. I'm not saying there are no men who are collective thinking, but our leadership is more about working together with other people to achieve results. It's not, the priority is not me, my ego, and get up there and I want to look. No, it's about, I'm going to look good if we achieve results. That's the way I see female leadership. But in 2021, this discussion is kind of tired because demographically, we're at a point where, you know, our girls are way better educated. Avenues are being opened up in so many fields where women are striving and have been striving. And it's time for old boys clubs, etc., to understand that promoting women into positions of leadership in corporate Canada, there's a very solid business case for that.
Oh my gosh. If we were all in the same space together, how fabulous this would be. Because this is where we're like, you know, around each other as sisters and saying yes. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. It sounds a little more intrusive jumping on your story and connecting with it while we're virtual. But I'm just feeling that conversation. And because the aspect too for me in terms of women in leadership, Black women in leadership, we've always been influential leaders. And I think that is something that is kind of instinctive. I think it has a survival kind of piece that was about, you know, our connections and how we've kind of moved and been able to move in terms of church and community, educators, like, so all of those things are there. So that influential leadership is there and it's present. What I think we need to talk more explicitly about now is the positional title leadership, right? So that's the place where, you know, where there is so much work that still needs to happen. Like there's, you know, just recently released in February of this year, a report that talks about women's leadership, you know, in the corporate hiring position, but also in the boards, and how, you know, the language that was used in that was racialized. So we do need to kind of, you know, suss out what that kind of meaning is deeply in there around, well, who are we talking about? Can we be more explicit and talk about Black women if we're as compared to an overarching title of racialized? But for me, one of the things that I think we all need to hold hands together and continue to go forward on is insisting on the title that goes with things, because being an influential leader is important, whether you have a title or not. And just think how much we've moved and been able to move from that position. However, the positional title is important in terms of some other aspects, in terms of what tables we get to be at, what funding sources we get to access. So positional leadership on boards, you know, not-for-profit and corporate boards, and in the employment aspect of it, you know, the various titles, roles are really important. And I think that needs to be heard more explicitly, and also to acknowledge that we are often in the formally educated positions at very high levels, and yet that's not showing up in the employment rates. And let's not even have a really deep conversation about pay and pay equity, because that's a bigger one. That's also another one that kind of goes on. But yeah, this valuing and acknowledgement about the contributions and the leadership that women have done over time, and not to be kind of formed up in a way that looks competitive to someone else, to the men in our communities, our brothers and sisters, but just a recognition of that occurrence and seeing how we can build and grow from that, whatever, right? And as I said, you know, kind of like the recognition about how do we kind of have these collaborative conversations together? How do we be validated for, like me working with my sister in the podcast world, so that I can kind of grow and learn some more too? So there's always been, I have on my, and then I'm really gonna like, I don't get to drop the mic because I don't feel like I have that right yet. But I'll leave the floor space. But I wanted to say I have on my signature line, electronic signature line, Ubuntu. And it means it's genuinely in passion and for me in terms of how we do, because my success is your success. Our humanity is intertwined. And so that collective way of being and in supporting each other, that's not the most valued competency, even now in our leadership world, while we talk about being supportive of each other. So while we hold true to things that we are about and understand ourselves to be as community, we need to also recognize there's some pushback we're going to get on that, because it may not be in that checklist for leadership, but it's important because that's how we survived and thrived, and that's how we are able to maintain our humanity and our passion.
Wonderful. Shirley, Nicole, haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I do have something. I really am all about matching the makeup of the country or province that you live. They say that women make up just over half the Canadian population, yet we continue to be underrepresented in leadership roles or in political leadership positions. And I saw something where it's like out of the top 500 companies and organizations in Canada, 109 do not have any women on their board of directors. So I believe, and maybe that might be controversial, but forcing companies to really start matching the population, whether it's in a national front or provincial front, and by creating that to force on matching what the makeup of the population is and having more women in leadership, it not only obviously helps the country to achieve gender equality, but also it will help on starting to influence the decision making around, management or policies or laws, and by in turn it will start creating role models and mentorship for young women.
Okay. Nicole.
I'm right here. I'm ready for you now. I'm ready.
All right. All right.
I'm coming up. I'm coming up.
Okay.
So, it's funny. I just had this topic on a conference that I was just a part of on leadership in men and on leadership in women. And one of the things that I bring to the forefront is this. We sometimes forget as women that men, even though we know what we bring to the table, men very well know what we bring to the table, and other women do too. There is a fear, there's an elephant in the room that we don't like to talk about. And sometimes even with the feminist movement, it has created this spirit, this action, this behavior of fear that men feel we want to displace them. And this is in addition to all the other things that they think or do not think about women. But we also have to address that elephant in the room, that it's not that we want to displace you. We just want to be on an equal playing field, that we have the same opportunities, the same pay, the same way that we can think as intellectually as you can. And so it's removing some of this old thinking, and removing the fear, because fear is a thing that can create belief systems that create the systemic behavior. What I do recognize, though, is that some organizations, and I have been fortunate enough to be in some of those organizations in leadership, is that when we as women come in the door in leadership, we have to open doors for others. We as women have to stop this competitive nature of competing against each other in a way that it's damaging. We can compete, but we must put on each other's crowns. We must continue to let the other one in. When I was the first Black president for CHF Canada, for co-op housing in Canada, I didn't want to be, yes, that's one of the things that I did. But if I did that and didn't bring others to join in so that I can see succession, so that right now we have an Indigenous president and so forth and so forth, we have to make sure that we are recruiting, that we are intentional when we get into leadership roles, that we bring others with us and we create that space and we bring forth the understanding and know that it's okay to have the conversations and that that's not necessary to be threats to one another.
Fantastic. So we got some people watching. We have Shirley Joseph here in Canada. We have Serena Wills from the DC area in the United States. Also, I just want to put up Sharon Joseph's conversation point here. This is a good conversation. It is informative. It would be great to reach a broader network. Well, we plan to do that. And also, Serena Wills is saying, huge issue here in the States. I once wrote grants for a nonprofit organization that served low-income African-American and Latino, and all of the board members were white, affluent men. No one reflected the organization. I still want to say a little bit then on this topic. What is it going to get or take to have the representation that you are all talking about, want, and desire?
Men have to come forward. Men have to open the doors and say we welcome them to the table. So even if we have something to do, men have to start opening the doors. That we cannot do it without the allies, and recognize that you are the ones holding the key, but we need to release the key and open the doors and recognize, hey, come on in. Come on in. Everyone here is welcome and treated with the same respect and dignity as they want to be treated. And then the old boys club no longer has to be an old boys club. It can be a club where everyone is welcome. Like where everyone's welcome.
I know, Sarah, you want in on this. Go ahead.
Am I muted? Yeah, there we go. I just wanted to add that we can't sit around really and wait for the men to come around and open the door, etc., etc. As we all know, a lot of the gains that have been made by women of color specifically, that's been because the mainstream, the establishment, has been forced to make those changes. What maybe we could do as women and women of color is to really do a bit of what Latasha Brown and them are doing in Georgia with voter suppression, right? This is representation suppression right here. So, list of corporations, list of organizations. These are the ones where, women are underrepresented or not represented at all. Ladies, are you a client or are you a member of this organization? Do you make donations to them, et cetera, et cetera? Oh, you do? Okay. Make your money talk. Make your money talk. Defund, divest if they are not going to be representative of the country's demographic. Then they should not be getting your money. They should not be getting your vote. They should not be getting your support. So, while you're waiting for these men to open these doors, well, you can kind of kick down those doors by going gangster.
I love that. I love that. I was sharing, I'm like, can you not see us sharing? Look, you got to bring us all on. Because we can see each other sharing and going, yeah, I'm putting
Anyone want to add to that? Like, what is it going to take? Go ahead, Shirley.
I think what it also takes is, I love what Nicole says is like men and allies, but also as women, being mindful of what we teach our daughters. Nobody taught me about leadership growing up. I had to kind of figure it out and, look at people like Oprah and model these folks like that to give me an idea of, what a boss is all about. But it's about the words and the mindfulness about what we teach our girls, this whole idea that you have to be nice and this whole princess type of thing has to go. And it could be even at, like, I have 2 daughters and I really work hard not to put any of my old biases that I was taught by my parents from previous generation based on. It could be a simple thing as the color that we wear. You know what I mean? That you can wear whatever color and it doesn't mean that you're less of who you are in your femininity, So these kind of things are very important. Also, we have a responsibility as women on being very mindful on what we teach to our girls.
Yeah, I think I love the variety of multiple things to do. And I think I will add into this too, the other piece that's about holding, for example, in this case, our national government accountable, because there is a Bill C-25, that speaks to corporate and not-for-profit in terms of accountability for that representation, right? And so, is there a collective structure that we can be part of, or organizations individually can be part of, that looks at that and asks for a report on that? So where are we with the commitments around inclusion? Where are we with our commitments around growing representation on the boards, creating a pipeline of an education opportunities for leadership into these C-suite roles, as they call them, or those leadership positions on boards, particularly boards that are national in scope. So there's something. So that's 2018, I think, in terms of when it was launched, right? And so if we have a chance to be thinking about that and following up on that and asking for a reporting on that, again, from what's been said here about recognizing the importance of our voice, and I think, I can't remember if it was on here or before we came on screen, but the recognition of civic engagement and political activism. Well, that's a political activism, holding our government accountable for what they said that they could and they would do, and having that kind of reported out for us, for the country, on an ongoing basis.
Nice. Okay, Joan, you're back with us. What we're just talking about here is, what action do you feel need to be taken to get the proper representation of women in the corporate workforce or corporate workplace? What are your thoughts?
I lost it. It's really based on a discussion I had with Tony. He reminded me about Jane Goodall's work with chimpanzees and suggested that this way of thinking is almost at a level of instinct, where in Goodall's work, she talks about the pecking order of these animals. They have a hierarchy of male and a hierarchy of female, and the male is always dominant over the female. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to correct this, but the river runs deep here, and it will take powerful women who can stand their ground and don't give up. Because men are just, by instinct, they figure they should be better or bigger or whatever in front of women. And we have to fight every step of the way to make sure that we don't let them get away with it. And as Nicole, I heard a little bit of Nicole talking about when you're in boardrooms and you're in head of a board. Why don't I get it? Anyway, once you're at the top there, you have to bring others along. You have to open the door, because the men are not going to open it for us. We are constantly a threat to men, especially the women of today. We are very strong and independent. I mean, I came from the old school. I'm not like you guys. You guys are 25 or 30 years younger than me. So I came from the era where my father, I'll tell you this as I say this, my father, when I, a young girl growing up, finished high school, and I wanted to go further. And you know what he said to me? No, I can't spend any more money on you. You're going to get married and have children. Spend the money on the boys. The boys went further to do engineering and whatever, but not the girls. He just figured, no, we'll just get married and have children. So that's where I came from. But now, looking at women today and looking at my daughter, that ain't at all. They're strong and they're independent and they stand their ground and they will not let men push them around. And a lot of young women in their 30s and in their 40s or even younger are suffering the consequences of that. That the men of today, those young guys, are not accepting how strong these women are and that they could stand on their own 2 feet. And it's really, I watch my daughter with that. And it's really, really hard that a strong woman will have a difficulty lining up with a guy because they cannot handle it.
You see, look at us, all of us. I think this is where we're settling, because it's like we all want to get in there. Because when you think about it, you think about how women are being viewed, what they were taught, but you start thinking about, this is when women have to start calling women accountable. Right? Because when we start looking at the videos and the music videos and what they have to look at, this is what I need to do to get money and power. So we set ourselves up for failure, but we want to be this, right?
Yeah.
And then, yet men you see, it's. I think this topic, we can spend all day on this topic. Then women, we want to be in the marketplace. We want to be in leadership. Yet still sometimes, even when a man wants to open a door for us, we don't want them to open the door for us. And we push them away when they're even just trying to be kind. We need
Yeah.
to learn how to be balanced as women.
Yes.
Still be a woman, still be feminine, but still
Yeah.
bring what you have to bring to the table. And then it's what, I think it was Shirley, you were saying, how are we teaching our girls? What are we teaching our boys?
Yes, I was just about to say that after. Yes.
It's what are we teaching our boys? And this generation, like when I think of Jones' generation and we need to start having those conversations and say, this is what I was taught. I was watching Bridgetown. Is that the name of the new show on thing? For the first time, I'm only in episode 2. And I heard the young lady say, what can I be but a wife? So imagine if that thinking goes through generation to generation, if she doesn't get exposed and then her brother was in the same way of thinking, guess what happens? It's transgenerational, systematic thinking of we are less than and we are not welcome here at the table. And if corporate Canada, corporate USA, corporate Europe, like we come from the Caribbean, we understand Africa. So we see women in leadership. We grew up with women in leadership in North America.
Exactly.
It's a different look. So it all depends on where you come from. This topic right here, Dr. Vibe. I know Sarah wants to. I know everybody wants to. I'm putting myself on.
Go on. Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, okay. I'm not going to pile on too much, but I was struck. Well, I was struck by what Shirley was saying about her role models, of leadership. And one thing we try to do with Black History Ottawa is make sure that we expose as many Canadian role models. Because right now everybody's talking about the amazing, what is that? Well, the woman in Georgia,
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams, my God, she is my shiro. Stacey Abrams, Latasha Brown, Tamika, all these, the Americans. Or at best, we're going to Winnie Mandela, and we're going to my fellow countrywoman from the Greenbelt movement, the environmentalist who got the Nobel Peace Prize, Wangari Maathai. We have historical figures right here in Canada before Jean Augustine, although I love Jean, but way before that. A lot of people keep forgetting that Viola Desmond was a businesswoman. She was a business leader. She was a civic leader. Okay. She made her, she was married. She had a husband. She had a family.
Before Rosa Parks.
She had a business. She made her way. Okay. And Beverly Maskell in Toronto, another business leader. Okay. We've got them here. We have these role models here. And one thing we need to do as older women, bringing up the next generation of Black female Canadian leaders, is hold up the Canadian models so that our girls and young ladies don't think that we have to look across the border. We have to go all the way to the Caribbean, Nanny of the Maroons, etc., etc. We have to go all the way to the African continent in the days of the African empires and kingdoms. No, we don't. The role model, the model leaders are right here in our immediate history here in Canada et au Québec aussi. Okay, it didn't start with Michaëlle Jean ici au Québec. Il y en avait avant elle et il y en aura après elle. Mais il faut vraiment mettre l'accent sur les modèles que nous avons ici. That's all I wanted to add. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Ladies, we got to move on, unfortunately, but I think I need to
jump in and say, I need to jump in and say thank you for talking about Viola Desmond, right? And thank you for
that's why I'm wearing purple.
Yeah, right. Awesome. I mean, for the fullness of her and what she did in her time, and it makes me think about too, like for us not to get they're caught up into what the trappings that other folks are putting on us, right? because there's this being colonized, right? That is happening. It shows up in all kinds of different ways. Yeah. So when we make sure we insist the systems, I mean, I guess that's my theme. That's my record groove stuck in the system. When we insist the system makes the knowledge accessible for everyone, because we need to know it for ourselves. As you said, those the women that have come before and what they've done, whatever, we need to know it for ourselves, but the broader country needs to know it too. So that, to help interrupt these conversations about us having to be defending and justifying whatever, right? Because so much is there already. And so, and so Viola Desmond, her story, and I'll just add into in the story that relates to justice, right? She did nothing wrong. And eventually, with people's persistence, she was able to have the mercy-free pardon, which acknowledged she did nothing wrong and should not have been charged anything. So so it's really important that we all keep saying in all of our curriculums. So as we teach our girls and our daughters and our sons and our nieces and nephews, right, in our own time, that the public systems that are supposed to teach accurate and full history and heritage, we need to keep holding them accountable as well.
All right.
I just want to add to this too, is that
yes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I just also want to add too, is that it's all about too starting with the young kids, right? It's about updating the books that in order to help improve the understanding of gender equality. And that can start at schools. I mean, some of these books are old school. And the gender, the verbiage that are used as well can also create these kind of, oh my gosh, everybody with it, these gender gaps, right? So if even asking and having a plan with teachers that, although maybe if these textbooks are older, that teachers can still point out, positive examples of gender inequality, and encourage the children to think more critically about the content that they read is also really important.
Mm-hmm.
Joan is up now too. We could stop on this subject and just go all day on this one. Okay. So what
Joan,
I'm gonna
you're mute. You're mute, Joan. We can't hear you.
From inside.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, on Monday, I'll send a link to you guys that the Viola Desmond Awards is done at Ryerson's. I manage that event, and it's happening on Monday. So I'll send the link.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's not saying is that she's getting an award on Monday. She's getting a Viola Desmond Award on Monday. Tune in at 6 p.m. She's not going to say, but I'm going to say it for her. And this is why we have to uphold, and Sarah, for me, like personally, I have decided that I don't even know how I'm going to find the time, but Trailblazers in the Now is another show that I'm going to be doing where I'm going to be highlighting Canadian icons, and I call them icons, the Trailblazers that are in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, because we need to tell their stories and give them their flowers now while they're alive, not when they're gone. When I look at John Pierre and I look at Sylvia and what they have done in this community, and they have not, and I'm seeing little, let me be nice. I'm seeing the younger generation, younger than myself, getting more flowers than them. And they have, and I'm not taking away from what they've done, but come on, people. Why are we, and I get so annoyed, Black History Month in Canada, when I'm only seeing American people being put, I'm like, I mean, even if you went to Africa, even if you went to the Caribbean, why is everything American? We have so many people right here. And if you can't even start in your own backyard and maybe even do an interview with your own parents, find out their journey, what they went through to be here. We need to start uplifting each other. Dr. Vibe, you've opened up Pandora's box. I don't know. We're over your show. Forget it.
Well, my alleged mind is thinking that we need to have, if you ladies do it, at least, if not bi-monthly, every 3 months we need to have you come on. So if you're up to it, we'll do the back channel talk and maybe bi-monthly have you come on, because as I said, and we have to make it 2 hours, by the way, because this time isn't going to be enough. I'm just going to catch up very quickly with comments. Serena Will says, yes, we need to bring our sisters with us and not see each other as competition or threat. I had a couple of bosses that are African American, and instead of being my sister's keeper, they threw me under the bus because they saw me as a threat. I once had positions like them. We have to have each other's backs. Sharon Joseph, if I may jump in with my small part, it's a long small part, we're going to do it. We are in a time where we have seen growth, and women's contribute to this growth. What I have learned is that we as women must be more assertive in our asked and leadership roles. Men want us to be part of the women's development, but due to the history of lack of equality for women, we see an imbalance in women's confidence. The younger generation is more bold and will approach the inequality differently.
Yep.
Okay, lots of congratulations going to Joan. And what we're going to do is move on to our next conversation because we don't got a lot of time left, so we're going to get to it. But I'll tell you, as something is happening here for the future, that's all I'm going to say. Next up, it's been almost 1 year since, it's a little bit over a year than the pandemic. How are women and families dealing with the pandemic from your eyes and your souls? Who wants to start with that?
Okay, nobody's jumping in. Sarah was going to talk. Sarah was going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm in Quebec. Quebec, Ontario, because it's the national capital region, and because it's a predominantly government town and services town, not as much a corporate town like Toronto or Montreal. It depends on what group you're from, because as you know, a lot of the frontline workers out here are women of color, and it's lower income. And, you know, all of this going back and forth between long-term care homes and that sort of thing has made life very difficult for them. And a lot of people have lost their jobs as well. And we also have settlement agencies here who've had to be dealing with immigrant women, newcomer women who are here with their families in congregate settings, etc. I've seen a lot of stress. It's very, very stressful. And then the closures, the lockdown, the this, the that. And of course, the disproportionate impact on the Black community, where we're more likely to get sick. And when we get sick, it's more severe. Our outcomes are more dire, etc. Very difficult. And then if you've got kids in the school system, you know, open, close, open, close. A lot of the women I know, they don't have, you know, the facilities, the technological facilities that other families might have to be able to do, you know, the school at home thing. And you also get the issue of, you know, the ones whose first language is neither English nor French, having to homeschool at home. Like how do you manage that when a lot of the organizations that otherwise would help you, it's closed? Mm-hmm. Everybody's doing, you know, distance servicing as best as they can, etc. So very, very stressful.
Who wants to take up on that?
Go ahead, Shirley. No, that was Sylvia. Sorry, go ahead, Sylvia.
No, I would just say I would echo a number of the things. I mean, in terms of, you know, that the weight again on, you know, to manage whether you're working from, if you had the opportunity to work from home, you're still, you know, have that burden of the childcare accountabilities there because, you know, your children are home. So there's been a lot of that and a lot of a strain and stress on folks as well in terms of like, I have to, wherever I'm working, offsite or in the office space, I'm still supposed to be producing and delivering at the same level because I think I know we're talking about the COVID pandemic, but we also need to be talking about that what we are experiencing in terms of the anti-Black racism pandemic, as people have said along. And so people were like having all this burden of them to deal with. And still, like you said, in terms of keeping your job, in terms of being productive in your job, and you're still, and then not supported in spaces. So yeah, the same thing. You know, here we had organizations, the Black Social Workers, Association of Black Social Workers, the Health Association for African Canadians came together in a really meaningful way to help support our communities, right? And to be connecting with the government around addressing issues when we were disproportionately impacted in the areas, as we said, around health, when we were experiencing being stigmatized and talking about in a very negative way about possibly being the one spreading this. Like, we went through some really traumatic times, additional to the COVID and its impact on generally overall. So the disproportionality of impact was showing up here, and there's needs to be this recognition, because we're strong, because we're resilient, doesn't mean we should still have to keep taking it, right? And I think sometimes things get played out like that as well. It's seen as, oh, well, they're going to be okay because they'd come through this and done it. I mean, while we can be proud about how we, still continue to take care of ourselves as community and in family, and are there for our children and for, are there to, in terms of supporting the community, these are burdens. And we talked earlier about, mental health, right? And mental wellness. So where is the support for mental wellness? And so some things did get enacted from the groups that I mentioned that came together, and we started having like access to like online yoga experiences and places for chat. And again, it was like us picking up and trying to be supportive of ourselves. But yes, the same things are happening in terms of that homeschooling and the access to internet and all of those type of things were still our challenges down here that people found ways to walk up and respond to, but they're still impacted.
Yeah, and what's it's kind of like, yeah, it's, the thing is with not just COVID but any pandemic, it's like pandemics is like a great reveal. It's literally like in every pandemic in history, it's like lifting off the sheet that all that mess that we, society have been pushing under the rug, and pandemic and any form of pandemic like forces you just kind of like lift that rug and like really look at it. It's like a huge reveal of the existing inequalities for women and girls or marginalized people, people who are disabled, poverty. It's a huge like realization of human rights when it comes to not just COVID-19, this pandemic, but all of them. But the sweetness, this bitter sweetness at the same time, is that so many women, especially women entrepreneurs, have responded, and really are building businesses or nonprofits or coming together during these incredible challenges with like grit and ideas and innovation to rapidly cope with the impact of what this pandemic have been doing, this crisis. So in order for us to have obviously a better future, so as much as it challenged us, women are honestly so dope, and they're really stepping up to fill in these gaps at the same time.
Well, I like when you said that they're so dope and all the ladies smiled at the same time. So that resonated. Joan, what do you see from your eyes and your heart about how women are handling the pandemic?
And because of my age group that I'm dealing with, and I literally stayed in most times. I'm not venturing out because if I get it, it's worse because of my age. But talking to my friends, and most of my friends are not ones with kids. So I haven't had any conversations with people with children and what their struggles are. But I'm dealing with individuals who kids are gone, they're just husband and wife, whatever. And they keep saying to me, I'm stressed. Joan, I'm so stressed. I say, hold on a minute, because I am not stressed. I've been through the pandemic, but I find things to do. So I say to them, create something that you've never done before. Something you just say, oh, one day I will, do it now. I have opened 3 women doing things that, oh, I never thought of that. I said, well, now you have the time. Invest your time in things you always wanted to do, and that will take away some of your boredom and your stress and all that stuff. And so I'm basically dealing with women in their 50s and 60s who are just home, not working anymore, or maybe just have a little hustle or something, which they can't do anymore, and saying they're bored. I don't know what to do with myself. I am not bored. I keep saying, and it's something I must have said to Nicole. I have up to, if I ever get sick and I'm in bed and I can't move, I say to Nicole, my husband and my daughter, I have boxes of every single card my husband ever gave me from 1972. Give me the box of cards, give me a scrapbook, I'll stay on the bed and create my nice little book of history.
All right. Joan, dropping the knowledge bombs. Dropping the knowledge bombs, Joan. That's fantastic. Good stuff. So we're wrapping.
Hello.
Oh, yes, Nicole. Yes,
Hello.
Nicole.
Hello.
Nicole.
That's okay. I won't be long. I'll be good because everybody's really covered some things. And I think I want to take up on something that Sarah also said. One of the things that we have to remember, we have a lot of single parent homes with women. And so some of them actually had to give up their jobs because they had no childcare and they didn't have the type of job. So I think we have to be mindful of that. Women have had to use the food banks more than ever before. And here's the other thing. We have women that people miss because we're not in quote unquote the vulnerable neighborhoods or the marginalized neighborhoods, but have become marginalized. And I hate that word because it's to me, sometimes I know what it's supposed to do, but sometimes it sounds demeaning to people who are just trying to make ends meet and things are happening differently. And they have to go and ask for help. But because they have been seen as strong Black women or women with certain positions and stuff like that, how are they going to the food bank? How are they going here? Because, they have to deal with this whole mental piece is affecting women at a different level. The other part of it is we have a lot of young marriages and people who weren't really spending a lot of time together. They were married, but, they had their lives. And, Tony and Joan have been such an example of marriage that, they can be together, but they have their own purpose in life. But when husbands and wives are coming together, what has happened is we have seen a rise in domestic violence that has occurred for women in the home and children. And so that has taught us that, we're wanting relationships and we're wanting marriages, but we never really worked on the marriage. We had a wedding or we never really worked on certain things. So that has been that other piece. And I would say that, out of this, when I look at some women, and I love what Shirley said, they have gotten the grit and they have gotten some stuff. And we've used that P word a lot, pivot, in 2020, 2021. So I say to people, there has been pain, but before you pivot, get perspective. Don't just get one perspective, get some other perspectives. Call a Sarah, call a Cheryl. And then when you get that perspective, then you pivot. So then you can operate in a new purpose for your life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving you 4 P's, no F's, just P's. Okay.
Okay.
4 P's.
All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do, we have 2 more questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll them together and also give your contact information. So each one of you during this conversation have given solutions. So as we close up, I'd like to ask each one of you some solutions and also what is your advice for the next generation? And then your contact information if you're comfortable giving it. So I'll just go over it again. Solutions for moving ahead now. Then also what's your advice for the next generation of women? And your contact information if you're comfortable giving it. Who would like to start first? I can call people out too if you want.
Okay.
Sarah?
Yeah. So solutions for what exactly again?
For the short term.
Pardon?
Solutions.
This pandemic?
Yes.
Dealing with this pandemic?
And then also, go ahead.
Yeah. So before I answer that very quickly, I would like to acknowledge, because I talked about there's a problem and people are suffering, etc. But I would like to really salute some women from Ottawa-Gatineau who've really stepped up and come through for our community. Gwen Madiba of Equal Chance, who's been doing the meal distribution to address food insecurity. Marie-Rémy Philippe with mental health support. Paula Alphonse, who's on this platform, who has managed to pivot and create her own show, just like Nicole did. And I'm trying to think who the last person is, but anyway, never mind. So basically, we have to, after you've pivoted, you also have to be patient. Okay, this is not going to go away. Even I'm not seeing that this is going to end this year. I'm seeing that it will only start to be fully resolved at the beginning of next year. So be patient, and you need to accept that this is now a new normal. It's a new normal. This whole going back to the way things were, no, things will not go back to the way they were. Make the best of what is happening now. Find your new opportunities. Pivot if you must. If you're not pivoting, just use your energy and your time intelligently in a way that honors who you are, in a way that honors your family, your community, and in a way that is sustainable.
And your advice to the next generation?
My advice to the next generation, I'm going to piggyback on what Nicole said about young whippersnappers. I'm going to call them whippersnappers. Okay,
What?
The young ladies who show up after Jean Augustine's been there and really think they're inventing something that they are not inventing. They actually are riding on other people's coattails. This is really, at no other time has it been more glaringly obvious that we need to really respect, honor, and cherish our elders. Okay, we're not going to have them around for that long. Some people discovered that way too late. But really, honor our elders, learn from them the lessons that they have to impart, respect what they have done, and then build on that. Don't be coming there trying to sort of dismantle, dismiss, out of hand what's come before you. Learn, be humble. You need some humility if you're going to do like what I do in the community with community work. You need some sort of humility.
Excellent. Quick, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
BlackHistoryOttawa.org.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
It's a lot. But what I was gonna say was, what was the first part of the question again?
First part of the question is, what solutions moving ahead?
Right. Solutions moving ahead. Find the time to mentor. And if you can't, volunteer. And if you can't, build space. And if you can't, then invest in community programs that encourage women and girls to, in order to help shape their work and continue their to help them support and continue to grow their program. And my advice to young folks is to, you don't need permission or be shy in sharing your greatness. Just, be great and indulge in it, and it's okay. And be your best advocate. That's huge. Like, I wish somebody would have told me when I was younger. Either you do that in your work or you do that in your education. And the way to be your best advocate is to ask questions. Asking for a raise is being your best advocate. Asking questions to your professors and teachers and say, I don't understand. I need to understand. Like, you and I are going to sit here until I get it. These are all things. Questions is the greatest way in order to be the best advocates for yourself.
Contact information?
Contact information, you could find me at Shirley Joseph on Instagram, or if you just search for at Black Canadian CC or Black Canadian Content Creators, the Facebook group or the page or on Instagram, you could find me there, or just write to me, go to chonilanetwork.com. That's another way where you can find me.
Thank you so much. Joan, we're saving you for last, so relax. Who's up next?
So I'll just jump in maybe and just say, so I think in terms of the pandemic, I think it's to take the things that showed up that were really positive and helpful for a community and continue those. We learned a lot. I learned a lot in terms of reaching out to community and how to maintain being, relational in that regard. And then there's just some other things that we hope that we can stretch and be in a different way. But yeah, so, always look forward in terms of what's going to work well in building, from that. In terms of advice, I'm a big fan of spending some reflection time with yourself, taking care of yourself, but also being, knowledgeable about what kinds of explicit work we may need to do to strengthen our skills. So whether that's, having good conversations with mentors that was mentioned, but it might be, reading particular resources, understanding what's out there in terms of programs, projects that can help support the niche place that we're going. But it all kind of is foundational on trust yourself and hold to your passion, right? And be intentional in all that you do, because we are there to lift as we climb, and we will support that.
And
Thank
the best way to contact you?
So for me, in terms of SV Paris Consulting, you can go with Twitter, and that's at Sista Who Leads, all one word. And at for Delmore Buddy Day Learning Institute, you can check us out at that website, dbdli.ca.
Nicole, you're next.
Okay, Lord, I'm following these three amazing women. Yeah. What I would say, moving forward, invest in yourself, invest in your health, and invest in your mental health and your physical health. Do a mental fitness challenge for yourself. Renew your mind, because this is a great time of renew and rejuvenation. And yesterday was the first day of spring. And so even though we've gone through a pandemic and we're still going through, and we will be going through, mind your mind, because until you mind your mind, your whole health will not be well. Advice moving forward for the younger generation: set a vision, create a vision for every part of your life, your financial, your health, your education, whatever it is. Create that vision board, but create a plan that goes with it, that's intentional, that's transformational, and get mentors. Open your mind to new things. I love the fact where, Sarah really spoke to you stop dismissing the generations before you and thinking we didn't do anything and they didn't do anything. You wouldn't be here being able to vote, being able to do all these different things if it wasn't for those generations that you're criticizing. And they went through a different pain, and your pain is different. So really honor and respect the older generation. Ask for help, get a mentor for the different parts of your life, and recognize who your iron sharpeners are, the people in your life that are really for you, that will hold you accountable, that will cheer you on, and be humble. I love that piece of being humble. Stay humble and trust the process. You are enough. And don't be so hard on yourself. Show yourself some self-compassion. But as you do everything that you've been called to do and you walk in purpose, humility, and do it with love, light, and truth.
Well done. Well, Ms. Pierre, you have our closing thoughts. Go ahead.
Most of you guys talk about the solution, so I'll just jump to the next generation. Take time to know yourself. Work on what brings you joy, especially if it's something in your career path. Think before you act. It will help you avoid making huge mistakes that could cost you your education, your freedom, and your life. Be patient and persistent. Luck comes from hard work. I've seen it with my own daughter. And I would say, some people used to say to me when she got Cirque du Soleil, they said she's lucky. I said, no, it's not luck. It's hard work. And I've seen her do it. Find a mentor. When you know better, do better. Don't follow the pack. That's it.
Short and sweet. Wonderful, wonderful ladies.
Mic drop.
And to reach me, it's just JAMYPIERRE@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that part, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, at Victory, you know what? At YouTube, at Instagram, and on Twitter, at Victory Speaks with an S7.
Thank you. Ladies,
We all bow. We bow,
yes,
Yeah.
Sarah, we bow.
I would like to thank each one of you for what you have, what you are, and what you will be doing. Thank you for taking the time out of your positive, productive schedule, not only in your own personal life, but in the lives you serve for other people. It's just appreciated, not taken for granted. I'm putting it out there live. I think we need to do this bi-monthly, but I'm not going to say nothing. I'm already going to see this. Bring back these ladies soon, please. Inspiring and encouraging. Not me. Not me. Not me. But yes, and thank you so much. So I'm just going to just add on to what the lady's saying. If you can, don't waste this crisis. I'm going to leave it at that. My name is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Podcast News in 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out with the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host the only online conversation for dads and fathers around the world that is sponsored by Dove Men Care, also co-sponsored by DAD, Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. Also, I am the board chair of the GFDI, the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which does promotion of Blacks in the diaspora that are involved in food, wine, and travel. I got it right this time. So, as always, if you want to touch base with me, you go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. Like to say these final closing thoughts, as always, when I finish an epic conversation. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, respect, and faith. Remember to give yourself grace. Thanks to BIA Media for producing this epic conversation. And something tells me in the next few weeks, no more than 2 months, you're going to see these wonderful ladies dropping knowledge bombs. BIA Media, thank you very much. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and walk good.